You're listening to the uMentor Talk Show, where we invite a panel of experts each week to hear about their incredible journey and career paths. On today's show, we're having a live panel discussion with both Brother Mohammed Haidar and Mir Hussein. If you've ever wondered how to get interest-free loans for college and university, or what it takes to get into med school, then this week's show will answer all of those questions. As a member on the board of directors for the NJ-based Anjuman Wazifa Sadatul Mu'mineen, Mohammed Haidar will shed light on what is required of students to qualify for interest-free loans. Meanwhile, Mir Hussein will give us a look into the Avalon University School of Medicine's admissions process and what you need to qualify. This week's show is brought to you by SP Designs. I'm Fatima El Sayed, your talk show host. Make sure to tune in to the talk show every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And remember, if you have any questions for any of the panelists, you can always leave them in the comments section or on our YouTube channel. Assalamu alaikum, both Brother Mir and Brother Mohammed. For today's discussion, it's a little different than the usual shows. Can we start off with Brother Mohammed? Can you tell us a bit about what Anjuman is?
Sure. Walaikum salam. So Anjuman Wazifa Sadatul Mu'mineen, if you go back a bit in history, it started about 100 years ago in India, and then they opened up a branch in Pakistan after 1947. The US location started up in 1990, and the focus is to provide interest-free loans to deserving students who are studying in US colleges or universities.
Okay. And what is required of students who apply to these programs?
So to apply for a loan, there are a few things that are required. One, think of it like you're applying for a regular college loan. So there's a full application process. We require proof that you're admitted in a US accredited college or university. We also require a record of scholastic achievement. There's also a requirement for a letter from your center or your places of worship indicating that you are a practicing Muslim of the Jafri faith.
Okay. So you have to be an active member of the community as well.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
You do. And then you also have to have a sponsor. And a sponsor is typically somebody who's already a member of the Anjuman. So that's something which a lot of folks usually forget about. And the reason for that is that the guarantor is somebody who we can reach out to later if need arises. So for example, you graduate from college and you move on, but your email address changes or your phone number changes. We need to find someone who is able to locate you for us so we can help you through the additional processes, because we're setting up a whole system, ecosystem around the Anjuman that once you do graduate, obviously you're looking for a job. So we're setting up an ecosystem to help people with that process as well.
Okay. And the people who are the sponsors, when they are sponsoring someone, what goes into that? What goes into that, making that decision? How do people reach out to those sponsors who are part of the Anjuman?
So typically you can find out from your local centers who is a member, who isn't, but you can always come to us and say, hey, I live in New Jersey, for example, so the town I live in, can you put me in touch with somebody who can be a guarantor or a sponsor?
Okay.
So we can always help out with that aspect of it too.
Okay, interesting. And are people able to reach out to sponsors right away or guarantors right away, like easily?
So basically, once you come to us and say, hey, I'm looking for a guarantor, we would then talk to those people who are available to be guarantors and provide them with the basic information. And if they're interested or able to be a guarantor, then obviously the connection is made.
And how did Anjuman start?
So it started off, again, back in 1912, I believe it was, and it started off primarily as a focus to raise the intellectual level of the community. And the whole idea was to provide interest-free loans for deserving students so they can get higher education and then obviously develop from there. So that was the premise of it back in 1912, I believe it was.
Interesting. And how did you get into it?
So I got involved with it about 4 or 5 years ago. I've been a member for many, many years, but I decided to get involved with an organization that did something along the path of educational services. I've done something similar, helping students in my local community develop themselves. or look for positions or look for jobs, and then it was a natural fit for me to step into the Anjuman to start more at the grassroots level, meaning more at the college entry level as opposed to
Okay.
the post college.
Okay. I'd like to hear a bit from Brother Mir if you're on here. What it is it that the program at Avalon gives students that's different than other med school programs? Okay, there seems to be no sound coming from Brother Mir. So, Brother Muhammad, can you tell us how people can apply to the interest-free
Sure.
loans?
So how the process works is you can go to our website. It's anjumanwazifa.org. That's .org, and there's a link on that page for borrowers, and you click on the Become a Borrower link, and it'll take you through the entire process. We have now moved to an online system. It used to be traditionally where you'd had to mail paper documents in. Now we do most of it online. So you can apply online. You can upload documents online as well. And then
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you create a profile online, you're assigned somebody from the board of directors or one of the volunteers who'll
Mm-hmm.
reach out to you and make sure that you have all the information you need and make sure your application is complete prior to the review cycles. Reviews happen in December and again in July, and there are
Okay.
dates, specific dates as to when the application process opens. But if you go to become a borrower at the
Mm-hmm.
anjumanwazifa.org link, it'll tell you exactly when the apply button is available. So for this coming year, it would have been available starting October 1
Mm-hmm.
through November 30th.
Okay, so after they apply, put in their official transcript, their reference letters, their essay, what happens after that?
So at the end of the cycle, which is November 30th, it then
Mm-hmm.
goes into a review process. There's a person assigned from the Anjuman who reviews the application and then asks for additional information. There is a short interview process as well
Mm-hmm.
during that time frame. And after that, then there's a meeting typically middle of December where the entire organization, all the volunteers and the board get together and then review the application, and then they vote on it. And at that point, the person is contacted and given feedback as to whether it's been approved or not, and what the missing pieces were.
Okay, and then they have the scheduled interview, and is it an in-person interview?
No, so interview is always done via phone, and it's
Mm-hmm.
basically to confirm some of the information. So if something is filled in which seems a little vague or is not clear, there might be a few questions that come up regarding that, just so we have a more complete picture. Because
Okay.
sometimes it's hard to capture all of your requirements on paper.
Mm.
So that phone conversation is really helpful.
Brother Mir, can you tell us a bit about Avalon University and what it gives med school students? What kind of opportunities there are?
Hi, good afternoon, Fatima. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Sure. So, Avalon University, we offer a full spectrum of three different main categories, as I would say. It would be the 5-year pre-med, the 4-year MD, and also the clinical aspect of the courses.
Mm-hmm.
This would all depend on really where the applicant coming in is with their current institution. Upon that, giving them the transfer credits up to speed, we would be able to determine where they would align.
Okay.
Avalon, to brief you a little, is we are based on the island. We're a Caribbean medical university, and we're housed on the island of Curacao. But our
Mm-hmm.
admissions office is out of Ohio, so everything comes out of Ohio with the process of admissions, and so on and so forth.
Okay. And what are you looking for when people apply?
So we look for a near 3.0 GPA. So we're very much of an academic base. So we look for a 3.0 GPA as a min. If you're near that, we do look for two strong letters of recommendation as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we do an interview process, and that also plays a big role into consideration.
And are these interviews also in person or online?
The interviews we conduct are Skype interviews.
Okay.
So what we do is we do definitely propose a time and a date with the applicant. And if everything checks out, then we will connect them to the interviewee, and then we make it happen. It's usually half hour, 45 minutes.
Hmm. And what other qualities do you look for in students?
We look typically for anything that they may have done outside of their, schooling.
Hmm.
Any volunteer work does play a big role. So we do look at that, and mainly, honestly, the interview stage is what I would say would be the shining moment. That because they are actually coming face to face with the person interviewing them,
Hmm.
and it really gives them a good grasp as to how the applicant is and who they are all about.
Do they require to do their MCAT?
No, we do not require an MCAT, but if they did take the MCAT,
Hmm.
we do that. They do have a little leverage, and we actually offer a scholarship for to do taking it.
Interesting. Okay. Brother Muhammad, how many students do you guys accept for loans every year?
So that changes. So the applications are usually done twice a year. We do one in the fall and one in the spring, in summer,
Hmm.
and the number of approvals varies. It can be sometimes it can be as little as 10. Sometimes we get 25 or 30 applicants. So there's no hard and fast rule to say there's a limit of how many we accept.
And how do you deal with the interest-free part of it all?
Right. So all of the funding, basically the way Anjuman works is it's a volunteer-funded organization, and we rely mostly on donations that come in. We accept homes as well, and then we have different sort of memorial funds that are set up. So that money that comes in is then invested, and it could be invested in properties or real estate and things like that. So that also generates revenue for us. And because we don't have significant expenses, so if I look at the numbers, our expenses are maybe less than 0.5% of the money that comes in. So we're able to provide loans based on that money that's sitting in the bank, so to speak.
Hmm. And when people are trying to pay off their loans, is there a specific amount that they have to give every month?
No, so as far as the repayment is concerned, we work with the students to pick a dollar value that's comfortable to them. So we
Hmm.
don't have any hard and fast rule to say they must give back 5%, 10%, or in some cases, traditionally, if you have like a $40,000 loan, you might be paying $400 a month. We don't have those sort of limits or restrictions. It's basically based on whatever the student can afford. If there are issues where they've graduated, haven't found a job, we just ask that they stay in touch with us, keep us apprised of their situation,
Hmm.
so then we can put it into a forbearance mode, if you will.
So you're not physically chasing after people to pay back?
No, we're not. No, no, no,
Okay.
no, no. And they
Okay.
can always reach out to us either through our website, or we have a Facebook presence, or we're
Hmm.
setting up a LinkedIn presence as well. So they can always reach out to us in several different formats, and we can help them through that. If they are having a hard time finding a job too,
Hmm.
we're able to put them in touch with mentors, so to speak, who can
Okay.
guide them through that job search process.
And people who live in different countries, so what countries are part of this?
So we only operate in North America.
Hmm.
So we have students who come to US universities from Canada. We have folks who are coming in on visas from Pakistan. So there's no restriction on where you're coming from. The hard and fast requirement is that we only provide loans for students who are going to school at a US based college or university, and it has to be an accredited college or university.
Okay. So people from Avalon University can apply for this loan?
If it's a US based one, then yes.
Yes. Okay. So speaking about Avalon, can you tell us, Mayor, what's special about the program?
Definitely. So we at Avalon offer more of a expedited format. So, which means starts off with 16 months of your prerequisite coursework. So
Hmm.
in the per 16-month span, you actually accomplish your 90 credit semester hours, and then transitioning into the basic sciences, which is also 16 months of your time on the island. We do give a couple week breaks in the midst of the semesters instead of the traditional long breaks. So we typically like to keep the students on the go and not have them, have the long breaks, which in return may create, a little lag or
Hmm.
loss of interest, if you will.
Okay. And if they're a pre-med student, what's required of them once they apply and get in?
Sure. So once they apply and they get in, what we derive is after we acquire what we call a seat deposit, we then have our other team members, which will send them out a welcome um, email, and then in there will be more of a checklist of items for
Hmm.
their housing, for them, for the immigration, for them to fly down. So all of that is much of a checklist. Even for their housing, when they're ready to go down, they can pick where they want to stay,
Hmm.
which is all walking distance to the campus. So for pre med or any that are coming in for MD, the same applies.
Okay. And how do the semesters work?
Sure. So we have 3 semester start dates, and they're January, May, and September. We do offer what we call rolling admissions, so which means if the applicant is near graduation, maybe next year, we welcome them to apply now. And what we would do is get the ball rolling, and then once we have the up to speed, their unofficial transcript, that would lead us to move forward for the interview process and then to
Mhm.
the review process with the committee.
Okay. And that's after they've applied, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We've spoken a bit about the requirements for them to apply. Now, what happens during the interview process?
Sure. So during the interview process, they're asked more on scenario based questions. So, for example, if there was a situation and how they would handle. So there are scenario based questions and also questions to more related to getting to know the applicant. So it's a mixed bag of both.
Hmm. And then once they get in, they have to do how many credits for the semesters?
We have for the 90 credit semester hours that entails the pre med portion of it. So
Hmm.
that would be that. And each semester is 15 weeks, and there are 4 semesters, and that would be
Okay.
for the pre med. Same goes with the basic sciences. It is 4 semesters each, 15 weeks in length, which equates to that 16 months.
And this preps them for what
What
important test?
So the next step that would be after that, it would be the MD5, which
Hmm.
we is the bridge semester. That is the one that preps them for the USMLE step one.
Okay.
Okay, so and that semester is offered in Ohio, right
Hmm.
where our office is. We actually have a class that is conducted in that same building. So the students will actually end up coming back to the States to do their MD5,
Hmm.
which is in 2 parts. The first half is board preparatory, and the second half is preclinical, which they get to shadow, they get their certification, and
Hmm.
also are at an in-class lecture.
Okay. Brother Muhammad, can you tell us a bit about what the premise behind Anjuman Wazifa Sadat Mu'mineen is?
So the premise of Anjuman was to provide interest-free loans and support to deserving students who wanted to go for higher education.
Hmm.
So that's how the whole thing was basically set up. And again, it is still very active in India. It started
Hmm.
up in 1912. It is still very, very active in India.
And I think the premise behind also the Avalon University program is sort of the same. Brother Mir, can you tell us a bit about that?
Can you rephrase the question? I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. What's the premise behind Avalon University? What's the goal?
Sure. So our goal is to basically, we really want to help educate and to what Avalon stands behind it, the fact that having and providing, the future students a
Hmm.
career in what they like, and for the most part, those that like to help and help people, that really falls into the factor with with the medical industry. So for the most part, like reflecting back with the interviews, for example, we ask what makes you want to pursue this, and
Hmm.
really the bottom line is that they either had in their personal lives some figure that influenced them, that they have went through a health issue or whatnot, and they would have loved to have helped that person, so
Yeah.
they want to come out and do the same. And that's what we stand about, is giving that opportunity for them to fulfill their dreams.
Hmm. Okay. Brother Muhammad, have you been asked anything about Canada? So people who are coming from Canada, if they can apply to the loans, do they have to be attending a American university?
Yes, so we do have students who reside in Canada and are
Hmm.
coming to the US for schooling, and they are eligible. Well, we actually
Okay.
have a couple of students who I believe live in Canada, but they commute over to Detroit
Okay.
and go to school in Detroit.
Okay. Interesting. Now, what's the main requirement? So, are there a lot of things that students have to meet, or is there just a specific uh, couple requirements?
Yeah, so there's a very specific list. Again, the updated list is always available on the website.
Hmm.
But again, there are requirements to demonstrate financial need as well.
Okay.
Um, so if you're sitting on $1 million in your bank account, you would not be eligible, obviously.
Hmm.
So it's focused more on those on needy students,
Hmm.
deserving students who have uh, a record of good grades or academic achievement in high school, and again, if you're already in college, then in college.
Yeah. And do you provide loans to cover existing loans?
No, so we are not in a position to cover existing loans. We do get that question quite often that
Hmm.
I got loans, I've graduated, and I'm paying 5 or 7% interest. Can you refinance it for us? And we are unable to do that.
Okay. Now, what's something that you find very interesting about Anjuman? What's
So
something that
what
intrigues you about it?
what I find most interesting about it is the number of people, for example, borrowers that we have,
Hmm.
who are very, very committed to supporting students in such a time. We all have several charities that we donate to. We have other obligations that we get involved with. But when you start talking to people and you explain to them, that you're basically raising the intellectual level of the community, you'll be surprised at how many people jump in and start to donate and become members or
Hmm.
support in other ways. We're also always looking for volunteers, and some of the students who've gone through the process, who've received interest-free loans from the Anjuman, after they graduate, do come back and become volunteers as well. And they become our best advocates because they've been
Hmm.
through the cycle, they've been through the program, they've seen what it can do. And these folks coming in and becoming volunteers, I think, is a testament to how good we're doing as an organization.
Have you had anyone in your family who's received funding from Anjuman?
Personally, not in the immediate family,
Hmm.
but if I date back, I just found out a couple of weeks ago that my grandfather was a recipient back in the 1900s when he
Oh,
was in
wow.
India. Yeah, so it was something that just popped up about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, whoa, did not know that.
And you started much before that.
Yes, I got involved with it about 4 years ago.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just found out about this about 2 weeks ago when one of my uncles was going through my grandfather's diaries and notebooks back from the 1900s, and that's how I think the entire family how we found out about it. But
That's
before
so
that, nobody
interesting.
was aware of it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's weird how the world turns and it just brings you back to the same
R-
spots, but at different positions.
Right, right, and it was one of the things which nobody really had thought about or expected.
Hmm. Yeah. So, what got you into this?
So my main focus of getting into this was because it's an organization. I've looked at many organizations and I've been involved with several charitable organizations in the
Hmm.
past. The main reason I got involved with it is because I like and appreciate the effort that's put in to bring students up and get them into positions where they can make a difference
Hmm.
for somebody else in the next generation. So it's something that it's the gift that keeps on giving, I guess, if you
Yeah.
want to put it that way.
And you mentioned something about networking. Can you give us a little more detail about that?
Sure. So we're in the process of setting up a couple of different programs. One is a mentorship program for folks who are applying to colleges, where let's say if they're interested in applying to law school and they want to talk to a law school professor, we can connect them to that professor. If they're looking at medical school and they want to talk to a doctor in that particular field, we can try and connect them to somebody practicing in that particular field. The other thing we're working on is the LinkedIn page for Anjuman. And the idea there is that as you get closer to graduation and you're looking for a job in a particular field, we can connect you to a mentor who can help you through that process and can say, okay, if you're applying for this particular line of work, these are the things that the industry is looking for nowadays. So this is what you need to focus on. Or if somebody, for example, is looking for a job in the company I work in, they can talk to me directly and I can put them through, help them through that application process and what the company does and what it looks for, and basically provide them insights as to what is required to be successful in that job search.
Okay. Brother Mir, what led you into this job here? I think it's something that's close to also giving back as well. Can you give us a bit more information about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say I would piggyback on Brother Muhammad as well. Same concept. My theories as well that being proud and that really makes me happy would be that coming out of the institution, being an MD, and going out there in the community and helping people out. And then it's a never dying industry, and the health industry is always going to be there. And just making people happy that they're taking care of them. That all is a domino effect coming back from the roots from the institution itself. So it's a reflection, and that
Mhm.
what makes me really really happy. Yeah.
And part of your job is also to recruit people. So what goes into
Sure.
doing that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we actually head out in the North America region. So we actually recruit out in Canada, majorly between
Hmm.
Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. We've done Halifax, Nova Scotia. So certain time of the year, we do make an appearance out there.
Hmm.
The movement's called Study Abroad Fair, and everyone is welcome to come out. You could find those updates on our website when it comes time for that part of the year. So we do come out there, and then within the U.S. as well, we do go out and recruit at different undergrad, even high schools. We set up seminars and fairs.
Okay. And how do you recruit people there?
Basically, we come in contact. We do marketing. They do marketing for us to bring together. There will be other vendors as well, so
Hmm.
it's a big presence in its own. And then students come up, and then we actually, talk to them face to face. If they need time on their own, one-on-one type, we do make the effort to do so. We also take time apart from the fair hours and actually set up a time to do a seminar, which will actually give them a more grasp onto what we're all about.
Hmm. And how do you decide which different programs to line them up with?
That would really come down to after they apply, after seeing what their transcripts look like. For
Hmm.
the most part, so like if we're doing the high school, if for the 99.9%, they will end up being pre-med,
Okay.
doing the 5-year pre-med program, right? So, and then if there's an undergrad or grad, they most likely will definitely be the 4-year MD program. So that really kind of already deciphers where that, they will be coming into Avalon.
Hmm. Brother Muhammad, can you tell us a bit about your own career? Your career is pretty interesting. So you're a sales director and you're responsible for all of Europe. So,
Yes. So a bit of my background, my undergrad was in electrical and computer engineering, double major with a double minor in robotics and controls. My biggest advantage was that I had a very good mentor when I started working, and that's something that nowadays is very, very rare.
Mhm,
So I started off with electrical engineering, moved into design engineering, moved into manufacturing, and my boss at that point in time kept pushing me into things that I had never thought of. And he sort of figured out where I excel and where I would do good. He then moved me into application engineering, and then ultimately to one day called me into the office and said, "It's time for you to leave." And I thought I was being fired at that point, and panic set in. And he said, he saw the look on my face and started laughing and said, "No, no, no, I'm not firing you. I'm telling you that I don't have a job for you, and this is the kind of job that you should step into." So he actually helped me through my first transition, leaving the company and going to another organization. But I've been in the sales business development arena since 1996.
Wow. Brother Merritt, for people who are entering the Avalon University programs, do you have mentors who will help them through the process?
We have support system as well. We actually have even student mentor programs that we offer on the island, and that
Mhm.
really, I myself have seen that when I went down, and there really is a beautiful system. Instead of coming to a comfort level, if someone is a couple semesters ahead and that student is prior to that semester and needs some sort of help, that we have a student to student mentoring system that we offer.
Mhm. And
So and then I was going to say
yeah.
more. We do also have in our office for those that are in their say clinical
Mhm.
stage of their game and they're looking for some advice. We do have the clinical dean that is very active and is more than welcome to even have students come and sit down and he can help and guide you as well.
Mhm.
So there are different parts of the program that we do offer that. Yes.
And when students finish up their clinical portion and
Hmm.
have to go out and start looking for work or start their um, hours in the hospital,
Right.
are there certain hospitals um, that are connected to Avalon, or how does that work?
Good question. So, yeah, we for our rotations and the clinicals, we do have our main three states, and those are between Chicago, Illinois, Beckley, West Virginia, and Phoenix, Arizona. At these three, they could do all of their 72 weeks, which is required by Avalon.
Mhm.
And if they are in good standing, they do very, very well. And with the preceptor, they have a good relation. Um, and they stand out. Then there are a higher chance of them to match with residency with them
Mhm.
instead of looking outside. But we do have residency matches all across the United States and in the Canada region.
Okay. And what led you to your job? What did you study in school?
I started off as in business, and then I have interned in the past into the medical field as well.
Mhm.
I worked for a medical software company, and had gotten some experience there. And then sales has kind of been the most common ground for me, and marketing. So, and then coming close with people and networking. So all of that collaborative kind of capitalized to where this is a fit for me at this current job.
So this is a question for the both of you. What kind of benefit do both of these programs provide students with in the long run? Feel free, whoever wants to go first.
Brother Mohammed, you want to go?
Sure, go ahead, put me on the spot here. So the main benefits for students from the Anjuman's side is to help them get a meaningful position where they're able to support their own families and then pass it forward.
Mhm.
So obviously, the hope is that they find a good job, they grow their own families, they're able to support their own children, and then they think about becoming members of the Anjuman to support other students, just like people before them supported themselves through college.
Mhm.
And for us, I was gonna say that it really gives the opportunity, being that we are a Caribbean-based school. It actually opens the doors for those that are maybe unfortunate to come to the States and actually pursue this degree. It's open doors for anyone outside of the U.S. and Canada as well. So we get
Mm-hmm.
from India, we get from all over the world, again, to better themselves. And, and for the most part that in my 2 years that I've been with the company, I've seen that, I'm the first one becoming this, an MD. I'm the first one being so it really, for them, it's a big deal. And that really means a lot to us,
Mm-hmm. It's providing students with opportunities they might not have otherwise.
Correct. Exactly.
For both programs. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you guys have any questions for each other, feel free to pitch in.
So
Yeah.
I don't have a question per se for Brother Mir, just a quick comment for anyone out, for all the other listeners out there is,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to learn more, you can always go to the website. We do have a monthly newsletter. Just pop us an email with your email address, and you can see every month who's getting loans, what amount of loans are being given out, and just general news regarding how the Anjuman is going. And I'm not sure if, does Avalon do the same sort of thing where you have newsletters that folks can sign up for?
We have a little heavy on social media, where we actually would mostly post about the current events going on. Like, for example, we have what we call health fairs on the island. We do really talk about that, which is held a couple times out of the year. So newsletters wise, updates, it's more on the current events for Avalon, as to what's going on. Um, but if they are willing, more than welcome to visit our website as well. It's www.avalonu.org. Everything is on there. I would highly suggest anyone be like a sponge, try to absorb as much as possible. Um, for as long as, they are really concerned with, say, residency
Mm-hmm.
matches, they can actually see how much we have to offer there across the country, and so on and so forth, with loans as well.
What's the most valuable piece of advice you can give to students who are applying to grad school, who are applying to universities? Maybe they're the first in their families, who are applying to loans. Again, let's put you on the spot, Mir, because you put Muhammad on the spot earlier.
Fair enough. So just to reiterate, you're saying with, for example, loans in specific. Am I correct?
And just in terms of getting into different programs when they're applying, what advice do you have for these students who might not be very sure of what they're doing?
I would always say, like, at Avalon, what we like to do is, we offer, for example, I'm just going to take an example. We even do what we call a 48-week graduate renewal program. So, for example, say they've done their graduation and they've acquired their MD like many years ago, but had no luck, for example, with the residency match. We just formed this bridge program to actually give them a renewal date.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, though, when you speak to them, they are very confused. They're not where they thought they would be. So we help with that and give them hope. So in conclusion, we guide as we speak. I mean, we help them out, help steer them to the right direction. And if we think that they could use a little bit of a little bit where they can go back a step,
Mm-hmm.
for the betterment, we would. It's for the good cause. It's not to actually have them spend more time or money. It's more for their betterment. So it really depends. It's so many variations coming in.
Mm-hmm.
We look at many factors.
The biggest piece of advice I think that I can give students is to be very cautious of the major that you pick. If we look at colleges now, as opposed to college back 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago, it was typically you had 3 or 4 major lines of focus. You went into medicine, you went into engineering, you went into law school, et cetera, et cetera. Now, a lot of colleges are allowing you to create your own majors. And while that sounds very interesting for students that, hey, I can do whatever I want to do, they always need to look at the long term and say, if I get a degree in, for example, kinesiology and economics, where will that take me?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yes.
And that's something which I think students nowadays get carried up in the I can do whatever I want to do thought. which sounds great in the beginning, but once you graduate, and then you have to pay back interest loans, and then you have to find housing, you have to pay for things. Students tend to lose sight of that. And we all, in our cultures, we always know mom and dad are there to help us. But at some point in time, mom and dad won't be there. So we need to pick a career and a line of work that, if worst case scenario, if something does happen to our parents sooner than we expect, we're able to stand up on our own 2 feet.
Good point there. I agree. 100%. Yes.
That's a very important piece of advice as well. So do you suggest students go into programs that complement each other, or?
No, I think the thing is, again, that's where the mentorship part comes in, is if you're picking a unique major, reach out to people in your community, reach out to people beyond your community, find somebody who's done the same thing you're thinking of doing, and learn from their experiences. And if they come back and say, I did this, but I struggled for the first 10 years, think about it and say, do I want to do the same thing? Do I really want to struggle for the first 10 years, hand to mouth, trying to make ends meet? And maybe it gives you a different perspective on what you want to do, what you don't want to do.
Absolutely. I'd like to add on to that. It's almost like doing your homework before and getting your feet wet by, again, like he was saying, talking to other folks and getting an idea before you make that decision. Absolutely. And I think besides medicine, engineering, be it business, these are really traditional aspects of industry that are, I think, never ending. We're all going to need an accountant. We're all going to need a marketer. We're all going to need a physician of all different specialties. So these are almost a staple, for certain. So yeah.
Do you guys have any last piece or last thing you want to say to the viewers?
From my side, nothing. But thank you very much for the opportunity, and it's been wonderful chatting with both of you.
It was lovely talking to you.
Great. I appreciate the opportunity as well. I would just one thing is, if you have any questions, you may more than welcome. Anyone can reach out to me. My name, Mir Hussein, or at avalonu.org. We have our admissions email at any point, and we even have a chat feature. If those that are off hours and want to have questions, we are more than happy to. We have an automatic system type where we offer answers right away.
So just to recap, Mohammed Haider is on the board of directors for the NJ-based Anjum Wazifa Sadat al-Mu'mineen, and you can reach out to him at any time. You can also reach out to Brother Mir Hussein, if you are looking to get into Avalon University School of Medicine, and he will be more than happy to walk you through the admissions process and what you need to qualify.
Absolutely.
You were just listening to the uMentor Talk Show. If you missed this or future shows, you can always hear the replay on the uMentor website under prior talk shows. And while you're there, subscribe to our iTunes podcast so you never miss another show. If you want to reach out to the speakers from today's show or any of our previous shows to ask the professionals any questions you may have, please visit our online platform at umoja.reach.org/unleashthefuture/groups, or just visit the uMentor website and hit the link for online platform. Be sure to tune in next week on Saturday at 3 p.m. for another panel of speakers and more stories. Thank you for listening to our discussion today on YouTube Live.